Chapter 61. The War of the City-States. After obtaining the ancient dragon tomb, the 4 members of the Battle Angel Michael group proceeded cautiously, avoiding trouble and conflict with others to ensure that the ancient dragon tomb could be brought back. But as they walked, they still got into trouble. They didn't create the trouble themselves. Rather, the trouble trapped them. We just stopped to rest for one night because everyone was exhausted from traveling for nearly a month and wanted to rest for a night before heading to the ancient city in one go. But during this one night of rest, they were trapped on the battlefield. Looking into the distance, layers of restrictions descended, sealing off all directions. Countless people entered this area, leaving the Battle Angel Michael and the White Emperor Tian Guangming dumbfounded. Why was this place sealed off after just one night's rest? Tian Guangming asked in surprise. Long Haitao shook his head in confusion and said, I have entered the battlefield of heaven and earth many times, and I have never encountered such a situation before. What exactly do these people who came in here want? Long Yun's eyes widened, feeling a sense of unease. Among those who can survive in the battlefield of heaven and earth, are there any weaklings? A sage might be able to reign supreme and become an ancestor in the Greatly Land, but in the battlefield of heaven and earth, he is nothing special and can only be considered an ordinary combatant. After all, there are many levels of sages, such as minor sages and major sages. Bring someone over for questioning, Michael said immediately. There was no time to lose. If they were exposed for possessing the ancient dragon tomb, they would face endless sieges. Long Haitao's face turned cold, and he said, Then let me take action. I'll grab someone and ask them what's going on. Long Haitao is a saint, but he only took 2 steps to reach the void transformation realm. The lesser sage takes 3 steps, entering the void, exiting the void, and reaching the great void. Long Haitao has only reached the 2nd step, but he has completed these 2 steps perfectly and may break through the realm at any time to enter the next step. Therefore, he is not weak. It was best for him to take action. The 3 of them hid in the forest and watched the outside world. The entire land was sealed off. Many people entered, and upon seeing the identities and allegiances of their opponents, they immediately began fighting. Different factions, they attack each other the moment they meet. Regardless of whether you are good or bad, they kill you first and talk later. This style made Michael frown. They seemed to have been caught in a storm from which they couldn't escape. Long Haitao was very fast and ruthless. He found a lone kid and captured him. Bang! Long Haitao threw him to the ground, frowned, and asked, Tell me, what happened here? The skinny man's cultivation level was quite ordinary. He was so frightened that he trembled and said in a shaky voice, This is the battlefield of the city-state war. Since you are in here, why are you asking me? City-state war, what do you mean? Michael raised an eyebrow and asked. It's the city-state wars that have been held from time to time over the past 10,000 years in the battle of heaven and earth. The people of the 2 ancient cities are gathered on the battlefield, choose a side, slaughter the other side, and win the final victory. You can get a considerable reward. The skinny man looked at Michael, Tian Guangming and the others, and answered in fear. Which faction? Tian Guangming asked. Orderly, chaotic, neutral. The skinny man replied immediately. Which faction do you belong to? Michael asked immediately. I'm on the lawful side. We just need to kill the chaos side to win, and we also have a castle protecting us, the skinny man replied. So, according to you, your opposing side is the chaos faction, and within the chaos faction, there is also a castle? Long Yun speculated. That's right. The skinny man nodded. What about neutrality? They don't have any cities. Long Haitao asked, frowning. He knew things were going badly. They had been dragged into a conflict. Neutral means you can move freely and form alliances at will, but to achieve victory and receive rewards, You need to eliminate both the lawful and chaotic factions, the skinny man explained. Isn't neutrality too difficult? Tian Guangming frowned. That's why it's so difficult, and that's why the rewards are so great. If we succeed, we'll get more than the other two groups combined, the skinny man said enviously. So those who are capable all choose the neutral camp. Michael suddenly understood the essence of the matter. Yeah, you guys are much stronger than me. Are you neutral? The skinny guy asked cautiously. We are not neutral, Tian Guangming replied. It's over. The skinny man's vision went black, and his heart sank to its lowest point. If he's not neutral and they arrested him, then he must be in the chaotic faction. He's doomed now. The skinny guy is mourning for himself. We're not part of the chaotic faction either, Long Haitao said with amusement. Seeing how scared the skinny man was, he didn't even consider killing him. Not neutral, not chaotic, then we're on the same side. You wouldn't be planning to kill your own people and then seize the treasure, would you? The skinny man immediately thought of his own way of dying. We are not in the lawful faction either, Michael said calmly. The skinny man was dumbfounded. He looked at Michael and the other three, glancing left and right, and cautiously asked, Excuse me, who exactly are you great beings? We didn't go anywhere last night, since we were resting here. But when we woke up this morning, we found that everything had changed, so we brought you here to ask about the situation, Long Yun said. Oh, I was so scared. Please keep asking, I'll tell you everything I know, the skinny man said with a sigh of relief. How do we leave this so-called city-state war? Michael immediately asked. The skinny man scratched his head and said, Those who came in and chose a side shouldn't be able to leave. They have to wait until the city-state war ends and a result is determined before they can leave. We didn't come here voluntarily. We were trapped here, Tian Guangming emphasized. Also, we're not participating in this so-called city-state war. We have urgent matters to attend to and must go out, Michael added. The skinny man thought for a moment and said, If you really want to get out, then end this city-state war as soon as possible. What do you mean? Tian Guangming asked, puzzled. Do you mean we have to kill everyone who participated? Long Haitao asked, frowning. Of course not, don't think that way. The skinny guy broke out in a cold sweat first. How could he possibly harm himself? What I mean is, you can destroy the castles of the lawful faction, and then destroy the castles of the chaos faction. Once both castles are destroyed, the Great War will be nearing its end. Only then will you have a chance to escape, because the barriers will be weakened when the castles are destroyed. The skinny man immediately explained his plan. We can give it a try, but we don't know how good they are, Michael said immediately. How long would this city-state war usually last? Tian Guangming asked. At least 3 years, at most 10 years. The skinny man immediately replied. Let's go destroy the castle. Without saying a word, Tian Guangming grabbed Michael and headed to destroy the castle. Chapter 62. Drawing the sword to slay the enemy. Originally, Xiandao was waiting for the battle angel Michael to bring back the treasures of the ancient dragon tomb so that he could build the heaven and earth bank. If this so-called war between city-states drags on for 3 or 10 years, then it will be too late. Tian Guangming knew this would be the outcome, which is why he dragged Michael along to destroy their castle. Of course, this is just talk. There are definitely many experts in the castle, and the two of them alone might not be able to defeat them. My lords, whether you are lawful, chaotic or neutral, there are some very powerful figures among them. I still advise you to proceed slowly. If things don't work out, just wait until it's over. Since you have no status, hiding away won't hurt you much, the skinny man kindly advised. A formidable character? How formidable? Battle Angel Michael immediately asked. They are all great experts from the 9 heavens and 10 earths, several of them at the Saint Realm. There aren't many weaklings like me, the skinny man said. How many saints are there? Long Haitao asked immediately, eager to help Xiandao send the things out. Only by sending away the items from the ancient dragon tomb will their contract be considered complete, and he can then leave the Great Li land to continue his cultivation. At least 20 saints, the skinny man said firmly after careful consideration. 20. Tian Guangming swallowed hard. They only had 2 at most. The battle angel Michael is one of them. He possesses the supreme secret techniques of the angel race, as well as the world-destroying battle spear. In addition, his cultivation has reached the 10th transformation of the heavenly origin realm, and he is only 1 step away from becoming a saint. Therefore, he can compete with the void realm of the saint realm. But that's the second best. Long Haitao, on the other hand, is very strong. He is at the 2nd step of the saint realm and has an ancient bloodline. If they really fight, his combat power will be devastating. Even if he is strong, he can't fight 2 or 3 opponents at once. There are 20 saints in the lawful faction. Opposite to the lawful faction is the chaotic faction, which consists of at least 20 saints. Not to mention the neutral faction, they are the strongest. After all, they can take on 2 opponents at once. Our strength is insufficient. Tian Guangming calculated carefully, feeling a little desperate. While we shouldn't boost others' morale while diminishing our own, we must be realistic. They are no match for us. Long Haitao's expression turned serious, and he admitted that Tian Guangming was right. They can't beat them. How about we wait until this is over before going back? Long Yun suggested. No, the master has set a time limit. We cannot delay here. Battle Angel Michael immediately rejected the idea. Everyone looked at him, and Long Yun retorted defiantly. If you're not going to stall, what are you planning to do? We can't beat them. Battle Angel Michael sneered and said, Who says we can't win? Tian Guangming's expression shifted, and he said, You want to use the sword energy that Master gave you? Battle Angel Michael nodded and said, Master's sword energy can protect us as we venture into the world of fire and defeat such a powerful being as the King of Fire. He can definitely take us out of here. We can give it a try and ask the Master for his opinion. Tian Guangming trusted Xiandao unconditionally and naturally nodded in agreement. Long Haitao and Long Yun couldn't say anything, so they just watched silently. The battle angel Michael stretched out his hand, and a wisp of sword energy emerged from his palm. The sword energy was very sharp. After it appeared, the surrounding air immediately turned cold, and a murderous aura filled the air. Even the skinny man with low cultivation level couldn't help but tremble and felt pain on his skin, as he had been injured by the sword energy. The battle angel Michael knelt on one knee and said, Master, we are in trouble now. Please give us some guidance. Rumble. The sword energy instantly transformed into Xiandao, a virtual figure appearing in the air. The sword energy merged into his body, and he wore a dark gold mask and a black robe, exuding an extraordinary aura. Even as a phantom, one could sense Xiandao's power. I already know what happened to you, and this matter is not difficult to resolve, Xiandao said calmly. He had already witnessed this scene inside the Heaven and Earth money shop. Not at all surprised. In his eyes it was just a minor problem. Master, what should we do? Tian Guangming also knelt down on one knee and asked. It's easy. The only thing blocking your path is this so-called war between city-states. Just destroy both city-states completely, Xiandao said simply and bluntly. Master, each of them has at least 20 saints. Michael said bitterly, beginning to miss his peak strength. If he had that ability, today's matter would have been a simple little thing, and he wouldn't have needed to bother Xiandao. It's all right. 20 saints are no match for my sword. From now on, you will go and destroy the castle. Once you get there, activate this sword energy, Xiandao said easily, without any fear. But remember, the energy contained in this sword energy can only be used twice, so you must bring all the enemies out so I can take care of them all at once, Xiandao instructed. Yes, master, I will gather them all together and let you take action, Tian Guangming said obsequiously. Master, I understand. I will definitely deliver the items back on time, the battle angel Michael said firmly. Xiandao nodded and returned to his sword aura form. Battle angel Michael immediately withdrew the sword energy and said, "You all heard it. The master has a way. We just need to do our part." Long Haitao, holding his granddaughter's hand, said, "Since it's the director of the bank who gave the order, we, grandfather and granddaughter, will definitely obey. Skinny guy, come with us too. Help us find the way and locate the castle. I promise I won't hurt you," Tian Guangming said kindly, pulling the skinny guy along. The skinny guy was on the verge of tears, saying, "Is it too late for me to back out now?" If he had known it would be like this, he wouldn't have told them how to get out. These lunatics actually want to challenge the entire lawful and chaotic factions. The point is, if you're going to challenge someone else, then he can challenge them. Why are you dragging me into this? I'm just an insignificant nobody. This time, I'm just here to get a little something and make some progress in the city-state war. Now you're going to your deaths, and you're taking me with you? You're bastards. The skinny man was on the verge of tears, wanting to curse loudly, but looking at Tian Guangming's kind eyes, he swallowed back the words that were on his throat. Okay. The skinny man forced a smile and agreed, looking very aggrieved. He felt like he was going to be driven to his death by these lunatics. Tian Guangming said happily, "You promised this yourself, I didn't force you. Lead the way, we're going to Order Castle now." The skinny man was almost in tears, but he nodded and agreed, leading the way to the Castle of Order. Seeing this, Long Yun couldn't help but laugh. Tian Guangming was too wicked. He was just trying to scare the skinny guy. Long Haitao and Michael remained expressionless. Even if Tian Guangming hadn't done it, they would have done it anyway. We need someone familiar with the route to lead the way and get to Order Castle as quickly as possible, without wasting any time. Chapter 63 Tian Guangming's Mockery. With the skinny guy leading the way, they didn't encounter any major trouble along the way, because all the troubles were resolved by Long Haitao, who was, after all, at the saint level. Without the saint level, he could sweep away everything. Therefore, all those who came looking for trouble were dealt with by Long Haitao. Within a span of 10,000 miles, two castles stand facing each other, one on the left and one on the right. The castle is very large, hidden deep in a mountain range. Even if Michael were to search for it, he might not be able to find it immediately. The castle is nestled in the mountains, spanning two large peaks connected by a long suspension bridge, which is bustling with people coming and going. The skinny man stopped at the foot of a distant mountain range and said, "That's the castle of the lawful faction, with at least 20 saints inside. Aren't you going to reconsider?" Battle Angel Michael shook his head and said, "Thank you for bringing us here. You can leave now. What happens next is none of your business." The skinny man's face lit up with joy, and he said, "Really?" Tian Guangming chuckled and said, "It's fake. If you want to stay, you're welcome to join us in facing the wrath of 20 saints." The skinny man's face turned pale. He couldn't even withstand the wrath of a saint, let alone 20. People will die. The skinny guy immediately ran off without looking back, moving incredibly fast, and waved his hand, saying, "Never mind, goodbye." Tian Guangming jokingly said, "A coward like a mouse, Entering this so-called war of city-states, isn't that just courting death? Everyone has their own way of surviving. Some people are timid as mice, some are diligent and hard-working, and some are brave and enterprising. It is not easy to live in this world, so why demand that everyone be the same? Michael said with emotion. Tian Guangming nodded in agreement, saying, "That's right." Long Yun, however, looked at Michael with newfound respect, her beautiful eyes sparkling as she stared at his figure. Michael completely ignored her and looked at the castle, saying, "We need to gather them together and crush our master in one fell swoop." Tian Guangming said, "This is easy, let me do it." Long Haitao frowned and asked, "Why are you here? Watch closely, huh?" Tian Guangming smiled confidently, then flew off, swaggering and unrestrained. Boom. Upon seeing the castle, he didn't hesitate and immediately attacked, unleashing a powerful punch that shone brightly in the sky, unleashing boundless power. Great Bright Fist. This is an ancient secret technique obtained by Tian Guangming. Although it is an incomplete manual, its power should not be underestimated. The punch slammed into the castle wall. Rumble. The city wall shook violently, spewing out a lot of debris, and a large crater more than 10 meters wide was created by Tian Guangming. This completely enraged the lawful faction members in the castle. They glared angrily at the bright sky, and some of the more hot-tempered ones even flew out. "You dare to trespass into my lawful camp all by yourself? You're courting death." This was a muscular giant wearing a thin coat, with short, spiky hair and a fierce expression. After flying out, he formed a hand seal, and a mountain appeared behind him. Dashan seal. This is a very ferocious move. One person carries a huge mountain and smashes it down. But in Tian Guangming's eyes, it was nothing special. He took a deep breath and then stepped into the void, each step generating tremendous vibrations. The void was like a mirror, shattered by the light of the sky, which intensified his aura, causing it to erupt all at once. May the light endure forever. Tian Guangming's expression was cold and aloof. Boundless light erupted from his body, which, when combined with his fist technique, became an invincible fist of light. Sweep away all demons and monsters. The light collided with the mountain, and the light, like a sharp blade, sliced the mountain into countless pieces upon contact. Boom. The mountain split open, and the big man was thrown off. Tian Guangming showed mercy and didn't kill him, but simply defeated him and injured him. He would recover in a few months. "Is this all the lawful faction has?" Tian Guangming sneered, standing in the void. His clothes fluttered in the wind, his expression arrogant and haughty. This infuriated the lawful faction, who glared at Tian Guangming, wishing they could tear him apart. Tian Guangming ignored all of this and unabashedly exuded the aura of his heavenly origin realm. Although it was only the first step of the heavenly origin realm, it didn't matter. He was just there to put on an act. Michael, watching from a distance, murmured, "This guy has a natural villainous face and a unique aura. He doesn't even need to pretend, just standing there, he's a villain." Long Haitao nodded in agreement. "Playing myself." Long Yun chuckled and said. The three of them watched silently. For now, Tian Guangming could handle it himself, but when he couldn't, it would be their turn to step in. The members of the orderly faction were not very concentrated, and it was pointless for Tian Guangming to put on an act in front of a group of weak cultivators. "Bring out your experts. This entire lawful faction is nothing but a handful of little cats and dogs." Tian Guangming's words were dripping with sarcasm, instantly infuriating them. Like a deflated balloon, Tian Guangming's single sentence filled it completely. "You just wait. I'm going to find a sage to punish you." Although our lawful faction was formed temporarily, in the war of city-states, we are allies. If you act recklessly here, you probably don't know what death means. If you don't die today, I'll change my name. The people in the lawful faction castle were furious, and they all made threats while secretly sending people to call for experts. Tian Guangming sneered and said, "Hurry up and call for help. Talking to weaklings like you is a waste of my breath." The lawful faction is incredibly popular. They're practically ready to tear the heavens apart. Tian Guangming continues to draw hatred without fear. He knew that Xiandao would definitely notice his efforts. Right now, Archangel Gabriel and Battle Angel Michael were the core of Xiandao, and Tian Guangming wanted to become the core of Xiandao through his own efforts. Could he become a god that way? Thinking this way, Tian Guangming became excited and went all out, mocking thousands of people all by himself. Even a debate with a group of scholars couldn't compare. Where are your experts? Talking to a bunch of weaklings like you is a waste of my talent. You have no fighting ability whatsoever. You're all complete trash. They only ever say the same few things, and all they can do when they're cursing is swear words. It's pathetic. You are really disgracing your parents. Tian Guangming seemed to be addicted, unleashing his full energy and leaving his opponent speechless. Just then, a streak of sword light shot out and landed, crashing down with a deafening boom, pointing straight at the heart of Tian Guangming. Noisy like a crow, making a racket, damn it. The saint of the lawful faction has arrived, and he is about to kill Tian Guangming with a single blow. Tian Guangming's expression was serious as he tried to dodge the attack, but the sword energy had already locked onto him. There's no escaping the light of day. Damn it, help me. What are you doing? Don't discard me after you've served your purpose. Tian Guangming roared inwardly. Chapter 64 Tian Guangming's Sudden Enlightenment. When a sage kills an enemy, he locks onto the enemy from 1,000 miles away. With a single sword strike, no matter where you run, you cannot escape. Unless a saint helps you unlock it. Now, Tian Guangming was locked on. His aura was being pulled by this sword energy. He cursed wildly in his heart, and he was trying to save himself. Light descends upon the world. May the light endure forever. Light shines everywhere. Eternal and indestructible. Tian Guangming unleashed all the moves from the great bright fist, focusing intently on his art. Under the pressure of the saint's sword aura, he entered a state of sudden enlightenment. Long Haitao was about to make a move, but now he reached out and pulled Michael, the battle angel who also wanted to make a move, to his side. Will Tian Guangming be killed? Michael frowned. Even if he didn't like Tian Guangming, he couldn't just stand by and watch him be beaten to death, since they were both his master subordinates. Battle Angel Michael knew that his master only had 3 subordinates, and losing even one would have a significant impact. He was unaware that Xiandao had already taken a bold, powerful man as his subordinate. Long Haitao said, "Don't worry, Tian Guangming seems to have had an epiphany now. We just need to make sure he doesn't die. As for getting beaten up," Long Yun said softly, "he mocked others so much, it's no big deal if he gets beaten up." Battle Angel Michael watched closely. At this moment, under the threat of the saint's sword energy, Tian Guangming truly began to have an epiphany. His great bright fist was dazzling, constantly colliding with his opponent. Of course, Tian Guangming always suffered the loss, with more than a dozen cuts on his body, covered in blood, making him look quite miserable. But Tian Guangming's expression was increasingly excited and energetic, especially his eyes, which seemed like 2 suns, bursting with boundless light. He disregarded his injuries and instead completely immersed himself in the essence of the great bright fist. Seeing this, Long Yun exclaimed in surprise, "This guy seems to be undergoing a transformation?" "It's not a complete transformation. I know his great bright fist is an incomplete version. With this kind of power, it's already the peak he can comprehend," said the battle angel Michael, shaking his head. Long Haitao sighed. What a pity. If it were the complete cultivation technique, this sudden enlightenment would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the path to sainthood would not be far off. Let's wait a bit before making a move. He won't last long. If he's really killed, I can't bear the blame for my master, said the battle angel Michael. Long Haitao nodded, ready to intervene at any moment to save Tian Guangming. At this moment, the sky was bright, and his mind was free of distractions. It was as if he had entered a world of light, and he was the master of this world. Light will endure forever, darkness will vanish. Unfortunately, he mastered the great bright fist to its extreme. It's incredible that he could cultivate a fragmented manual to such a level. Tian Guangming tried his best to develop his own fist technique in the world of light, but unfortunately, no matter how he punched, he could not withstand the saint's sword energy. The gap is too big. It was so vast that even the brightest heavens could despair. Every time they clashed, he was defeated, covered in wounds, his clothes stained with blood, but Tian Guangming knew he had to persevere. Because those damn Michael and Long Haitao aren't coming to save him. Tian Guangming forced himself not to think about these things, because if he did, his thoughts would wander, making it even harder for him to win. But if he doesn't think about these things, he's just dying a slow death. Finally, the saint in the orderly faction didn't want to continue. He was a saint, and with just a wisp of sword energy, it was so troublesome to kill a heavenly origin realm cultivator. This is utterly disgraceful to saints. Another thing is that Tian Guangming is too tenacious. No matter how much he is hit, he can get back up. Even if he is injured, he will act as if nothing happened and continue to be brave. The sage knew that villains died from talking too much and holding back, so this time he would no longer hold back. Kill. This wisp of sword energy, nourished by the sage, instantly transformed into a gigantic sword that covered half the sky. He chopped down hard. The great sword was extremely sharp. After being raised, it came down hard, and Tian Guangming was sure to die. At the moment of death, Tian Guangming stopped fighting. He was exhausted and had too many wounds. But his spirit, nurtured by light in a world of light, gradually grew stronger. I have finally seen the true meaning of light, and I can die without regret. Tian Guangming murmured. He had touched the world of light, relying solely on a fragment of the Great Light Fist manual. Master, I've always disagreed with your statement that I lack talent. But now I accept it. I am a child of light. I have no other talent for cultivation. In this life, I can only cultivate light. Light is my only choice. Now, I've made the right choice, but I'm going to die too, Master. If possible, come back to me in your next life and sign a contract. I'm willing to follow you. Tian Guangming closed his eyes, accepting his judgment under the giant sword. Light resides in the heart. Nothing in the world can compare to its warmth. Rumble. The giant sword fell, parting the clouds and the air, directly slicing through the sky. Seeing this from afar, the battle angel raised the world-destroying war spear in his hand and hurled it fiercely, sending the world-destroying war spear flying. Boom! In an instant, the world-destroying war spear seemed to traverse space, directly blocking the giant sword. Above the void, the world-destroying war spear stood firm and unyielding, followed by rolling killing intent, demonic energy, and death energy. These combined forces erupted instantly, transforming into a gigantic skull with blue flames emanating from its pupils, which held off the giant sword. Roar. The next second, the skull roared, and the world-destroying war spear erupted, shattering the giant sword into pieces. Snort. The saint in the lawful faction let out a muffled groan, clearly injured. Enraged, his aura surged forth like a rainbow, instantly engulfing everything. I didn't expect you to be accomplices. My orderly faction is not a place for you to run wild. I've taken a liking to this halberd. Give it to me. The saint stepped out and appeared in the void, his eyes like lightning, with a hooked nose and deep-set eyes, looking extremely unfriendly. He's brighter than the sun and seems more like a villain. Battle Angel Michael smiled coldly, stepped forward, and said, "If you want my world-destroying war spear, then come and take it yourself." When Tian Guangming opened his eyes and saw that he was still alive, the Battle Angel Michael appeared. He immediately regained his composure and cursed, "You wretched angel, you just stood by and watched me die. I almost died." "He's not dead," Michael said casually. Tian Guangming was speechless, glaring angrily at Michael. If he weren't outmatched, he would have rushed up and given Michael a good beating. In the distance, Long Haitao and Long Yun also came out, and the four of them gathered together. Long Yun's first words were, "You're so bloodied, you look like you were picked out of a pile of corpses." Tian Guangming looked at himself and said in frustration, "Damn it, you guys better take down this saint right now, I want to poke a few holes in him." Chapter 65. 25 Sages. The Battle Angel Michael ignored Tian Guangming's words, moved his body, grasped the world-destroying war spear, pointed it to the sky, and pointed it at the hook-nosed saint. "Are you the only saint in the lawful alignment?" Michael asked. "Are you from the Chaos faction?" The hook-nosed saint didn't answer, but asked with a sinister look in his eyes. "Yes." Michael immediately nodded in agreement. They are currently positioned as part of the Chaos faction, but once the Chaos faction is dealt with, they will become part of the lawful faction. "You people from the Chaos faction are really bold. How dare you trespass into the headquarters of my lawful faction? Are you looking for death?" The hook-nosed saint said sinisterly. "Actually, you are no match for me," Michael said truthfully. He has already reached the peak of the heavenly origin realm, possessing the body of an angel, the world-destroying battle spear, and the invincible magic of the gods. All of these combine to create Michael's immense power, enabling him to defeat enemies of higher ranks, take the first step in fighting a saint, and enter the void realm. But the hook-nosed man didn't believe it. Even the people in the orderly castle didn't believe it. A sage is a sage because he has transcended the realm of ordinary people. One who is a saint is one who transcends the mundane and is detached from worldly affairs. That is, a saint. When one studies to the utmost and understands the principles of heaven and earth, and that the changes of the sun, moon, and stars reside within one's heart, one can be called a sage. Those who educate all things, teach without discrimination, enlighten the people, and enable them to progress can be called sages. A sage is someone who has achieved the ultimate in a particular field. A hooked nose indicates extraordinary cultivation, far surpassing the heavenly origin realm. He believed he had Michael completely under his control. Of the four people, the only one he was somewhat wary of was Long Haitao. But since Long Haitao didn't make a move, he couldn't see through Long Haitao's true intentions. Hooknose decided to kill Michael first, and then go and meet Long Haitao, whom he feared. "Killing you is a piece of cake," the hook-nosed man said in a low voice. "You're too arrogant," Michael said calmly. "It's not that I'm arrogant, but that you're too haughty," the hook-nosed man said, and suddenly spread his wings like a roc, and a sword light appeared in his palm. It was a long sword, emerald green, very dazzling, and flashed like a green light. "Kill." The man with the hooked nose made no attempt to conceal his murderous intent. His eyes were bloodshot, and he instantly enveloped Michael with a surge of sword energy that sealed him off. He wanted to leave Michael with nowhere to escape. Michael had no intention of running away. The more ferocious the sword energy, the more surging his fighting spirit became. Divine Judgment. The signature move of the Battle Angel Michael, at its peak, left no survivors under his judgment. Even immortals lost countless lives. Even now, though he is so weak that he hasn't even reached the Saint Realm, he is still incredibly powerful. With a world-destroying war spear in hand, a cold light burst forth, and Michael soared into the sky, slashing fiercely with the war spear. Rumble. This strike shattered the sword light. Michael's world-destroying war spear was invincible, capable of sweeping across the battlefield. With this invincible technique at hand, even close-range attacks were unstoppable. The hook-nosed sage roared, "Rainbow sword technique." A rainbow arches against the setting sun. A lone plume of smoke rises from the vast desert. This sword strike depicts a desolate scene, drawing Michael into it, attempting to disrupt his judgment and make him become addicted to it, unable to extricate himself. But this very attack, surging like a raging fire, was meant to stop Michael, cut off his attack, and kill him. "You used a mental attack on me?" Michael laughed, a laugh filled with utter disdain. Would a mighty divine warrior angel fear a saint's mental attack? Even disregarding his identity as a battle angel of the gods, the mere fusion of two souls significantly boosted his spiritual power. Even a sage could not shake his spiritual power. So Michael ignored everything and charged straight ahead. The world-destroying war spear erupted with surging killing intent, transforming into the shadow of a demon, and roared. Roar. The enormous roar, however, disturbed the hook-nosed man, jolting him awake and causing him to become disoriented. Michael seized the opportunity. The world-destroying war halberd slashed down directly. Click. The saint was cleaved away, a deep gash opened in his chest, blood gushing out. He screamed in agony as he crashed into the castle, causing it to collapse. The people in the orderly castle were dumbfounded. Even saints were cleaved away. Just how powerful was this person? After his hooked nose was cleaved off, he coughed up a mouthful of blood, his whole body covered in blood. He was barely clinging to life, not dead, but unable to fight anymore. Michael landed on the orderly castle, looked around and said, "Is this the only saint in the orderly castle?" Long Haitao flew up with Long Yun and Tian Guangming. Tian Guangming saw Hooknose lying in a pool of blood and cursed, "If you weren't in such a miserable state, I would have poked a few holes in you and shown you how powerful I am." Long Haitao ignored Tian Guangming. As soon as he stepped onto the orderly castle, he sensed many surging auras approaching. "The other sages have arrived," Long Haitao said in a deep voice. Michael's eyes lit up, and he said, "I'm afraid they won't come. Only upon arrival can the sword energy bestowed by the master be activated." Knock knock knock. Within the Castle of Order, numerous auras surged into the sky, making no attempt to conceal themselves, and directly crossed over. Have the Chaos faction become this rampant now? You dare to cause trouble in my lawful castle? You've got some nerve. Whoever it is, they will surely die today. They are really audacious. They even injured one of our saints. It wasn't just a minor injury, it was a serious one. A series of ethereal voices echoed all around, making it impossible to discern their location. Michael sneered. Pretending to be saints? You're all saints. Why bother with such petty tricks? Come out and show yourselves. I want to see just how many saints you have. Young man, it's quite impressive to have such cultivation at such a young age, but you're too arrogant. This isn't a place for you to run wild. An old man flew over and landed on the castle, speaking coldly. That's right, we came together. You have a lot of influence. Now choose a way to die, and we can grant your wish. Another middle-aged man walked in through the air and sneered. This kid is nothing to worry about. What we need to be concerned about is this old man. He's at the second step of the Saint Realm, having crossed the Void Realm and entered the Void Realm. He's not to be underestimated, a woman in formal attire said with a smile. But there was no smile in her eyes, only endless indifference. One saint after another appeared, blocking all of Michael and the others' escape routes. Upon careful counting, there were 25 sages. 5 more than the skinny guy said. Fear. If this were taken to the Greatly region, it could absolutely sweep through the Greatly region. But here, they are just staff members in a small castle. Michael looked at them all appear, smiled slightly, stretched out his hand, and a wisp of sword energy appeared in his palm. Now destroy the core of the castle, or you will face your death. Michael said calmly. Chapter 66. Those who understand the times are wise. Michael's words made the people in the orderly castle laugh. From top to bottom. From strong to weak. From old to young. Everyone was laughing. They are laughing at Michael's ignorance. They are laughing at Michael's arrogance. They are laughing at Michael's arrogance. They were laughing happily. Michael watched indifferently, without uttering a word. Long Haitao watched calmly, as if it were none of his business. Long Yun watched with mixed feelings of joy and worry. She chose to believe in Xiandao, the mysterious owner of the heaven and earth money shop, but she was also worried that if something went wrong, she would also be unlucky. Only when the sky is bright, do we laugh heartily, and laugh together with the people of the orderly castle. Ha 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 ha. His laughter grew louder and louder, almost drowning out the people of the orderly castle. The people in the orderly castle frowned, looking at Tian Guangming with displeasure. This is absolutely outrageous. What are you laughing at? The beautifully dressed saint sneered. Tian Guangming put his hands on his hips and laughed, saying, I'm laughing at your arrogance, I'm laughing at your ignorance. These words should be returned to you verbatim. The elaborately dressed female saint sneered. There are only 4 of us, yet we dare to storm your orderly castle. Why don't you think about what we're capable of? Tian Guangming chuckled and said, because you are fools, a sage said disdainfully. It's truly unbelievable that even a fool can cultivate to the heavenly origin realm. Tian Guangming mocked. What gives you the confidence to rely on this old man? The elaborately dressed female saint pointed at Long Haitao and said disdainfully, the second step of the saint realm, not bad but only not bad. We have several saints at the second step of the saint realm here, a saint sneered. I'm not a key player this time, and I won't be making a move, don't worry, Long Haitao said calmly, waving his hand. You're not going to make a move? The elaborately dressed female saint sneered. With just the 3 of them, they probably couldn't even withstand a single blow from me, yet they dare to spout such nonsense here? Michael said calmly, this time, your opponent is not us, but my master. Your master. The female saint raised an eyebrow. The guy you call master must be quite powerful. Where is he? Call him out. The female saint became interested. Tian Guangming immediately said, Michael, that's enough. Stop talking nonsense and finish this quickly. Michael nodded, and with a wave of his hand, a wisp of sword energy slowly rose up, gradually condensing into Xiandao under everyone's gaze. With his hands behind his back, wearing a dark gold mask and black robes, he exuded an extraordinary aura and an invincible presence. This is Xiandao. A wisp of sword energy split into 2, stunning the entire scene. Who are you? The female saint asked nervously, her brows furrowed. She actually sensed a threat from this sword aura clone? Isn't this absurd? She is a saint, and at that, she is at the second step of the saint realm, the void transformation realm. Now, facing a sword aura clone, he actually feels palpitations and a sense of threat, and thus becomes nervous? Absurd. The female saint harshly criticized herself in her heart, and then looked Xiandao in the eye. The other 24 saints all looked at Xiandao. Was this the trump card of Michael and his 3 companions? Is there some mistake? Did they think they could run rampant in their lawful castle just by having a sword or a clone? Absurd. At this moment, the saints lost interest, having thought they would see a good trump card. But now it seems like they're a bunch of lunatics. Not worth mentioning. Watching any longer would be a waste of their time. A sage took a step forward and slapped Xiandao's sword energy clone. What trump card? Just a sword energy clone. Watch how I shatter it. This saint spoke with absolute confidence. Although he has only just entered the saint realm, dealing with a sword energy clone is still a piece of cake for him. So his slap. The decision to throw it away was extremely decisive. Michael watched without blinking and shook his head. Tian Guangming's eyes showed pity. These people didn't know how powerful their master was, and they were so reckless. Long Haitao sighed, lamenting for a saint. The others simply watched calmly. In their eyes, it was a piece of cake for a saint to deal with a sword energy clone. But the slap landed on Xiandao's sword aura clone, and instantly, a powerful energy erupted from Xiandao's body, transforming into a long sword. Clang! The long sword was drawn, its sharp blade flashing through the air, instantly sending the saint flying. Rumble! To everyone's surprise, the saint was knocked away and crashed heavily to the ground, where he lay motionless. A sword pierced through his brow. Die. The saint died. He died right before their eyes. It's not about fighting 300 rounds and dying from exhaustion. He was not ambushed and died unexpectedly. It wasn't someone else who struck first and decisively killed them. He struck someone else himself, and then he was killed by a single sword. His death silenced the people of the orderly castle. Even the saints were in a daze at this moment, unable to understand anything. How did he die? Nobody saw it clearly. In the blink of an eye, the saint was sent flying, a long sword piercing his forehead, and he died instantly. It was this sword energy clone that killed him. Thinking about it this way, everyone took a few steps back in unison. This is too terrifying. A wisp of sword energy, a clone, silently slaying a saint. Those who possess such strength are all-powerful figures, unparalleled heroes. Who exactly are you? The female saint swallowed hard, her arrogance and confidence gone. Go and destroy the core of your own castles, and I will spare you. This so-called war between city-states must end now. Xiandao said calmly. Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed in surprise. They had entered the city-state war precisely to seize victory and obtain the rewards. But we haven't even fought yet, and you're already coming to our door demanding that we destroy the castle's core ourselves and surrender automatically? Does such a principle exist in this world? Are they really that cowardly? No way. With a flick of his wrist, Xiandao unleashed a torrent of sword energy behind him, like a dragon soaring through the air and silken threads of spirit, instantly transforming into 10,000 sword energies. 10,000 sword energies were pointed at the 24 saints, but Xiandao remained silent. The war between city-states is extremely bloody. Once the war starts, our brothers will suffer heavy casualties. Today I, a woman, will offend you brothers and shatter the core so that we can end this war between city-states, reduce the killing and bloodshed, and let everyone go home safely to their mothers. The female saint suddenly turned her head and said loudly, righteous and indignant. Righteous and awe-inspiring. A passionate speech. A heroine among women. These words can all be applied to this saintess at this moment. She raised her voice and immediately received the approval of everyone in the orderly castle. They went there happily, and smashed the core. Rumble. The Order Castle collapsed right before everyone's eyes. Xiandao was quite surprised to see this. It was just a tiny wisp of sword energy that took down this orderly castle. Everyone here knows that a wise person knows when to yield. The next second, Xiandao looked at the chaotic castle, which was 5,000 miles away. He raised his hand. Chapter 67 The King of Flames comes to trade. Xiandao raised his hand, and all the energy of this sword chi converged. 5,000 miles away, a chaotic castle came into Xiandao's view. Everywhere he could see was where his long sword had gone. The sword of the great river descends from the heavens. This sword fell from the heavens, accompanied by Xiandao's fierce sword intent. It burst forth in an instant. Clang. On a clear, sunny day, a streak of sword energy flew swiftly toward the chaotic castle without any hindrance. Everyone was watching, even those with lower cultivation levels who couldn't see it were still watching. Is it really possible for someone to destroy Chaos Castle with a single sword strike from 5,000 miles away? Is this some kind of divine power? Those with low cultivation levels might not be greatly shaken, but these 24 saints were all deeply shaken. Even a great sage couldn't do this, right? After all, the opponent isn't a bare castle that you can attack at will. The other side also has more than 20 saints, who will intervene once they realize it. How could this possibly succeed? More importantly, Xiandao was only a sword energy clone at this moment. A mere sword aura clone possesses such terrifying power? Just how powerful is the original body? Everyone can't help but ask this question. After unleashing that sword energy, Xiandao stopped paying attention and said, "Come back as soon as the city-state war is over. I'll be waiting for you." Battle Angel Michael and White Emperor Tian Guang knelt on one knee, guaranteeing, "Your subordinates will definitely return as soon as possible." Xiandao nodded, looked at Long Haitao, nodded in acknowledgement, and then looked at the 24 saints. They were so frightened that they forced a smile and dared not be careless. What if they offended Xiandao? Seeing that they were obedient, Xiandao's body slowly faded, turning into smoke and disappearing. The 24 saints immediately breathed a sigh of relief. They had finally disappeared. But the next second. Rumble. 5,000 miles away, a huge ball of flame shot into the sky, illuminating half the sky. The 24 saints stared wide-eyed in disbelief. It's really ruined. Chaos Castle was completely destroyed by Xiandao's sword. The 20-odd saints in the chaotic castle were no match for Xiandao's great river sword chi. Left with no other choice, they chose to give up and let the castle explode. Chaos Castle was in complete chaos, while on the Order Castle, it was so quiet you could hear an ant walking. The 24 saints swallowed hard. This was terrifying. They looked at Michael and the other three, and even though they were certain of victory, they dared not make a move. Thousands of miles away, a single sword strike could kill you. Where would you go to seek justice? Has the war between the city-states ended, and the restrictions been lifted? Michael asked. The female saint nodded and said, "It's open. The restriction will disappear soon." Michael breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. Let's go now. We need to go back and report this to our master." Tian Guangming nodded. Now that the barrier was broken, they had to hurry back and couldn't afford to waste any more time. "Take it easy, be careful. There are a lot of lunatics in the Chaos faction. Now that you've destroyed their castle, be careful they don't come after you," the female saint warned. Michael nodded and said, "We don't cause trouble, but we're not afraid of trouble either. If they dare to come, My master will make them know what cruelty is, Tian Guangming said proudly. Having witnessed Li Xiandao's terror, his loyalty has now reached its maximum. The female saint was speechless, recalling Li Xiandao's terrifying methods just now, and shut her mouth. Battle Angel Michael, along with Tian Guangming and Long Haitao, left this place. Sure enough, the barrier was lifted shortly afterward. Michael and his companions walked out easily, the world vast and open, free for them to go their own way. Let's go. We've wasted a whole day here and used up the sword energy the master gave us. We don't have any means of survival anymore. We can't afford any more accidents, Michael said in a deep voice. The others followed him and hurried on their way. Those who participated in the city-state war were completely bewildered. What's going on? It's over after less than a day? For many, it's over before it even begins. The instigators, Michael and his group, had already left and headed straight for the ancient city's teleportation array, hoping to return to the Great Li Land. Inside the Heaven and Earth Bank, Li Xiandao slowly opened his eyes, which were filled with a comfortable, flowing light. We'll be able to redeem the Universal Library soon, Li Xiandao said, full of anticipation. Even if most of the books in the Universal Library were loaned out, the remaining ones would still represent a huge sum of money for Li Xiandao. Li Xiandao currently only knows the Great River Sword Qi. Although he has mastered the Great River Sword Qi, he also wants to learn from the strengths of others to make up for his own shortcomings. The Universal Library can definitely meet Li Xiandao's requirements. Just as Li Xiandao was lost in thought, Shao Qi spoke up. Master, we have a guest. Li Xiandao raised an eyebrow and asked, Who are you? Someone you know. Shao Qi said. Li Xiandao asked in confusion. I don't know many people. With one step, Li Xiandao arrived in the hall and saw a giant surrounded by flames. His 5-meter-tall figure seemed like a small mountain in front of Li Xiandao. King of Flames. Li Xiandao had previously given the Flame King a pocket watch, which the Flame King pondered for a long time before crushing it. Li Xiandao waved his hand and said, How about you become a little smaller? Looking at the King of Flames from this angle, Li Xiandao felt a little uncomfortable. It's because your place is too small. In the world of fire, my body can grow as large as it wants, the King of Fire complained, as it disliked shrinking its body. In the eyes of the King of Flames, shrinking is neither cool nor imposing. It even felt that its 5-meter body was small enough. Li Xiandao said calmly, When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Haven't you heard of that? No. The King of Flames shook his head, splashing a few drops of lava that were about to burn down Li Xiandao's carpet. Li Xiandao waved his hand helplessly and said, Shrink a little, then we can talk about the deal. All right, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. The Flame King sighed helplessly, shrinking his body to 2 meters, which looked much more comfortable now. Sit. Never mind, you should just stand. Li Xiandao was about to invite it to sit down, but looking at the Flame King, whose entire body was covered in flames and magma, he said helplessly. If he were to sit down, his exquisite wooden chair would be burned. Even the few steps the Flame King took just now left marks on the pristine white ground. What do you want to trade? Li Xiandao asked, wearing a mask. I want to go see the human world, the Flame King immediately said. You can go now. You're so powerful. Even if you suffer great losses leaving the flame world, you can always come back, Li Xiandao said. I want to enter the human world as a human, not as an anomaly like the King of Flames, the King of Flames said, shaking his head. Li Xiandao frowned. You mean you want to create a substitute to enter the human world, study, travel, and broaden your horizons? The King of Flames immediately nodded, hoping, What's your plan? There is definitely a way, but what can you offer in return? Li Xiandao raised his hand and asked. The King of Flames smiled confidently. He had come prepared. The King of Flames took out something and handed it to Li Xiandao. Chapter 68 Countless Suns. A ball of flame. A flame that looks like a person. It dances in the hands of the Flame King. It handed this to Xiandao with a hint of reluctance in its eyes, saying, "Here, take this in exchange for a human body. I want to enter the human world and learn about evolution." Xiandao held the little fire figure in his hand, staring at it intently. The little fire figure jumped around excitedly. It was about the size of a thumb and seemed to have endless energy. It hugged Xiandao's finger and shook it happily. Xiandao looked at Xiao-Qi. Xiao-Qi shook her head. She bent down and stared intently. It was the first time she had ever seen such a small flame creature. "What is this?" Xiandao asked the King of Flames, looking up at him. The King of Flames proudly declared, "My son." Xiandao blinked, amused, and said, "Didn't you say you were the only living being in the world of flames? When did a son suddenly appear? And what do you mean by giving me your son? Will you let me help you raise your child? This is not a kindergarten." Xiandao was a little dissatisfied. If it weren't for the fact that the little fireman was too cute, he would have immediately kicked the King of Flames out. "I didn't know that before. I've never left the flame world, so I didn't know about this situation. But not long ago, you forced me to leave the flame world, and I discovered that as soon as I leave, they start to give birth to new life forms," the Flame King said helplessly. "So this little guy is my son. He was conceived in the same place as me, through the same process, and he is perfectly compatible with my abilities," said the King of Flames. Xiandao toyed with the little Flame King and said, "Since it's your son, then raise it properly. What do you mean by dumping it on me now?" The King of Flames thought for a moment and said, "I can't keep him alive." "What do you mean?" Xiandao looked at the King of Flames in surprise. "You're huge. The world of fire is so vast. You can't support your own son? Are you kidding me?" The King of Flames complained, "You don't know, the flame world is vast, but only one King of Flames can exist in it. If I were here, this little guy would never grow up, remaining ignorant and never maturing." Xiandao frowned and said, "Then you can leave the flame world and leave it to your son. That way, when it grows up, you can go back and the two of you can live a peaceful life together." The King of Flames shook his head and said, "If it were before, I might have done that, but not now." "Why?" Xiandao and Xiao-Qi looked at the King of Flames together. "I don't understand why the King of Flames said that. If we remain in the world of fire, what's the difference between us and frogs in a well?" the King of Fire retorted to Xiandao. Xiandao leaned back in his chair, his dark gold mask giving him a cold and aloof air, but inwardly, he agreed with the King of Flames' words. Compared to the entire world, the world of fire is just a well. The father and son were in the well, looking at the sky from the bottom of the well. "I have encountered you all this time. Your strength has shocked me. The world of fire is easy for you. You come and go freely. In addition, you defeated me with a single sword aura. You have shown me how powerful a true strongman can be. I can no longer be complacent, and I cannot let my son be complacent either," the King of Fire said earnestly. "Then you didn't need to send your son to me," Xiandao said, looking at the little Flame King playing with his thumb, both amused and exasperated. "My son is far more malleable than I am. He grew up by your side from a young age and will be 100% loyal to you. I'm giving him to you so that when you raise him, you'll have a very powerful henchman," the Flame King said confidently. Xiandao felt nothing at all. He even felt a little like laughing. "I would have to spend a lot of resources to raise your son. This deal is not worth it at all. I will not agree to it," Xiandao refused directly. "A transaction. I don't expect to make 100%, but I'm sure I'll make at least 50%. Xiandao is not a philanthropic businessman. He proclaims himself to be a cunning and unscrupulous one. He'd rather not do business than not make money. The little Flame King is good, but raising it and finding a suitable body for it requires a lot of resources. What are we earning? The little Flame King is just a henchman." After being rejected by Xiandao, The King of Flames was not disappointed. He simply sighed and said, "I know that a mere King of Flames cannot impress you. Brother, to be honest, the value is too low, and I can't give myself a fair answer." Xiandao said from the bottom of his heart, "Do you have any more treasures? Bring some out, and we can discuss it further." Xiandao's next sentence revealed his true intentions. "The trade can continue, but not a little Fire King. You'll even have to pay them out of pocket." The King of Flames coughed and said reluctantly, "I have another son, I'll give him to you too." As soon as he finished speaking, the King of Flames took out a smaller King of Flames from his own body and placed it in Xiandao's palm. Xiandao stared blankly, speechless, and said, "This is your second son?" The King of Flames nodded solemnly and said sadly, "I originally wanted to keep one of them by my side, but it seems that's not possible now. In that case, I'll give both of them to you. You must take good care of them." Xiandao stared speechlessly at the King of Flames. "Are you kidding me?" When the first little Flame King was brought out, Xiandao genuinely believed it to be the son of the Flame King. However, the second one doesn't match what it said before. Xiandao and Shao Qi exchanged a glance, both seeing the cunning soul of a profiteer burning fiercely in each other's eyes. The King of Flames came prepared this time, and it would be a disservice to Xiandao's self-proclaimed reputation as a cunning businessman if he didn't squeeze him dry. "What's the difference between taking one or two?" Xiandao asked the King of Flames. The King of Flames said, "I've already given you both of my brothers. Are you still not satisfied? As long as you don't expose yourself, I guarantee that no one will be able to find you, unless they are immortals. You can live in the human world for a long time and slowly evolve." Xiandao promised. The King of Flames' eyes lit up, and after some hesitation, he pulled out a smaller King of Flames from his body. "Here, this is my youngest son, the last one. You've taken all three of my triplets. As their father, I'm heartbroken." The Flame King feigned a few sobs. Xiandao looked at the three small Flame Kings in his palm, and then at the Flame King itself, and became somewhat angry. "It's a bit uncomfortable to have to squeeze out one by one. How many do you have? Let me tell you, stop saying this is your son. You don't have a whole bunch of sons, do you?" Xiandao said irritably. The King of Flames thought for a moment, then silently raised one finger and said, "That's all I have." Chapter 69. 10,000 Flame Kings. Xiandao looked at the Flame King's raised finger and guessed, 10. The King of Flames shook his head and said, "You underestimate my abilities. A whole brood of more than a dozen." Xiandao stood up in surprise and said, "You still have 100? If there were 100 Flame Kings, then this deal could be made. If Xiandao were to expend resources to cultivate them and build a massive fire army, he would be invincible in his conquests." At this moment, Xiandao had already thought of a name. But the King of Flames shook his head, a smug smile on his face. Xiandao was startled and asked, 1,000. The King of Flames shook his head and sighed. "I let you guess, but you're too timid. I gave birth to 10,000 sons in one go." Xiandao and Shao Qi looked at each other in disbelief. "Damn it, who would have thought that you would suddenly give birth to 10,000 sons? King of Flames, where did you get so many sons?" Xiandao asked doubtfully. "You could say that one or two were born from the world of fire, but how could the world of fire possibly give birth to 10,000 of them?" As for the Flame King's claim that it was its offspring, Xiandao completely disbelieved it. "How can you, the king of male virility, give birth to 10,000? The King of Flames said, "After you left, I thought about it a lot and realized that I couldn't be a frog in a well, so I started to think about what to do next." Xiandao listened silently, his body ramrod straight, wearing a mask and remaining completely silent. "I've thought about it carefully. As the King of Flames, I haven't evolved for a very, very long time. According to your human cultivation levels, I've been at the peak of the Lesser Saint realm for a long time," the King of Flames sighed. "Its lifespan is seemingly endless. As long as it exists in the world of fire, It can live forever. As long as the world of fire is not destroyed, it will not die. But in doing so, it was also trapped, destined to remain in the world of fire for eternity. If it were the previous King of Flames, he probably wouldn't have thought of this aspect. However, not long ago it was defeated by a wisp of sword energy clone of Xiandao, which greatly hurt its pride and made it start to seriously reflect on its actions. It felt that it was still too comfortable. The world of fire is its escape route. As long as the world of fire exists, it cannot make up its mind and cannot leave. After much deliberation, the King of Flames made up his mind to extract the essence of the flame world, mix it with his own primordial blood, and begin creating his own kind. That's how the little Flame King was created. Just how vast is the power of the entire flame world. Previously, the King of Flames did not have a clear understanding of this, but now that it has begun to shape its offspring, the King of Flames has finally seen it for himself. 10,000 little Flame Kings have been created. These 10,000 little Flame Kings can all be said to be the sons of the Flame King, born with his essence and blood mixed in. But the world of fire is gone. The little Flame King has no place to dwell, nor does the Flame King have a place for eternal life. Let's start all over again. At this moment, the King of Flames remembered the pocket watch that Xiandao had given him, crushed it, and came here to begin the transaction. The King of Flames recounted his story to Xiandao in detail. Xiandao nodded silently, but said nothing. After listening, Xiandao began to express his own opinion. Raising 10,000 little Flame Kings would require an extraordinary amount of resources, Xiandao said softly. The King of Flames nodded, embarrassed, and said, I was so excited when I thought about having offspring that I lost all the essential resources of the flame world and also lost a lot of my own life essence. My children have nothing to eat yet. The King of Flames had no choice but to come in and trade with Xiandao. Xiandao understood the Flame King's predicament. It was still too inexperienced and lacked negotiation skills, exposing its weaknesses to Xiandao. Xiandao sat in a chair. With his legs crossed, he said leisurely, I'll take all 10,000 little Flame Kings. What can you offer in return? The Flame King immediately asked, not minding handing over all his sons to Xiandao. Of course, the value must be commensurate. A perfect human body that you can use for 100 years, Xiandao said, holding up one finger. The King of Flames glared angrily at Xian and said, I'll exchange 10,000 of my children for one human body to use for 100 years? If he weren't so extraordinary, the King of Flames wouldn't have come here to beg Xiandao. If it goes to the human world in its true form, it will surely attract the attention of various forces. The King of Flames is a treasure trove, with every part of it having great use. If it were discovered, it would be a disaster for it. That's why it needs an undetectable human body to perfectly integrate into. Xiandao smiled slightly and said, I'll give you this body to use for 100 years. After 100 years, return it to me, and I'll give you a chance. The King of Flames looked at Xiandao suspiciously and asked, What opportunity? A chance to become an immortal. Xiandao began to paint a rosy picture. The King of Flames asked with skepticism, A chance to become an immortal? Our Heaven and Earth Bank is very powerful and magnificent, with a deep background. As long as you agree, I will definitely be able to give you this opportunity 100 years from now, Xiandao said firmly. His determination seemed to inspire the Flame King, who began to ponder. Xiandao spoke calmly and slowly, saying, You can do the math. I took in 10,000 of your children, which seems like I made a profit, but you need to know how much it takes to raise even one child, let alone 10,000, right? The King of Flames nodded subconsciously, but quickly came to his senses and said, You have a large and wealthy family here, raising children is definitely not a bad deal. Xiandao shook his head and said frankly, Then you are wrong. My family has a large business, but it also consumes a lot of resources. If you were to raise 10,000 Flame Kings, you would be exhausted and still not be able to keep them alive. The King of Flames fell silent. It cannot be kept alive, which is why it was willing to tell us. If it doesn't speak out, At least half of these 10,000 fire children will die. But isn't it too unfair to just give it to Xiandao like that? The King of Flames fell into deep thought. Seeing this, Xiaoqi gave Xiandao a thumbs up, winked, and exuded charm. Xiaoqi admired Xiandao's bargaining skills. Although raising 10,000 little flame kings was quite difficult, it was insignificant compared to the benefits it would bring. King of Flames, think it over. I can tell you that once these 10,000 children enter my heaven and earth bank, I will take good care of them, nurture them into talents, and form an invincible army. I've even thought of names for them, Xiandao said with a smile. What's your name? The King of Flames asked. Xiandao smiled mysteriously. Chapter 70 The Burning Legion. The Burning Legion. Xiandao said seriously. 10,000 Flame Kings, once trained, would each be a force capable of destroying the heavens and the earth. If they formed an army, trained battle formations, and used combined attacks against the enemy, they would truly be invincible. Individually, they are incredibly strong. In team battles, they are even more powerful. Such an army, once formed under Xiandao's command, would certainly be no less formidable than the previous Stoneman enforcement team. The King of Flames murmured, "Burning army, what does that mean?" Xiandao explained, "Wherever they went, everything was burned, leaving only ruins and mountains of corpses. Burning crusade, invincible. The burning army will be a long sword in Xiandao's hand. Sharpen the sword, draw it, and kill the enemy." The King of Flames asked earnestly, "Can you really give me a chance to become an immortal?" Xiandao nodded, reached out and took the contract prepared by Xiaoqi, and said, "Sign it. It's all written clearly in the contract. I respect contracts very much." The King of Flames dared not touch it, but silently watched it, scrutinizing every word with utmost care. After confirming that everything was correct, the King of Flames squeezed out a drop of his essence blood and dripped it onto the contract. Their blood and essence boiled, instantly igniting the contract, which then transformed into flames that burned between the two men. "This!" the King of Flames exclaimed in surprise. Xiandao calmly said, "Don't worry about it. You've already signed the contract. Even if it's burned, it won't change anything. There's a copy of this contract in your heart and in mine. I can give you a copy whenever you want." Xiaoqi's delicate hand reached out and grabbed at the air, and a contract appeared out of thin air, the very contract that the King of Flames had just signed. The King of Flames looked closely and was finally relieved. He said, "Then I'll give you 10,000 children now?" Xiandao shook his head and said, "It won't work here. Come with me." With a flick of his sleeve, he brought the King of Flames directly to the Hall of Time. The Hall of Time was now empty, except for a corpse lying there. Wu Tianyu, the seven-tailed genius of the Fox clan. The King of Flames saw it and asked, "Is this the human body you spoke of?" Xiandao nodded and said, "It's him. But he's a demon," the King of Flames said, frowning. "Demons and humans are just different species. He is a seven-tailed celestial fox with powerful demonic energy that can completely suppress the aura of flames on your body. I will cast a spell on you, and your soul will reside in his Naiwan palace, controlling him. You can go anywhere in the world," Xiandao explained. The King of Flames immediately released 10,000 lesser kings of flames. Each of the little flame kings was the size of a thumb. At this moment, 10,000 of them stood together, densely packed. People with trypophobia would feel their whole body go numb upon seeing them. Xiandao reached out and instructed them, "Babies, be quiet. I'll prepare some energy and food for you to fill your stomachs later." The little flame kings have just been born and have encountered an unreliable father who demolished their home. They haven't eaten since, but upon hearing Xiandao's words, they became very obedient. Before long, 10,000 little flame kings lined up, waiting for Xiandao to feed them. When the King of Flames saw this, his old face flushed red. He really was an incompetent father. Xiandao ignored it. Now that these little flame kings were his, he would take good care of them, since they would become his powerful generals in the future. Shao Qi, take out the divine source and feed it to them. You feed them, and I'll go prepare the corpses, Li Xiandao instructed. Shao Qi nodded and said, I'll take care of them, master, don't worry. Li Xiandao trusted Shao Qi completely, so he brought the King of Flames to the side. The genius of the Fox clan, the father of the nine-tailed fox, Wu Tianyu, a seven-tailed celestial fox. He died at the Heaven and Earth Bank, so his body was left here. Li Xiandao had already discovered some clues through his omniscient and omnipotent talent, so he placed it in the Time Palace to ensure that the body would not decompose. Not long now. Li Xiandao then put it to use. Although it is said that the dead should be respected, Li Xiandao should not have used Wu Tianyu's corpse. But Li Xiandao had previously saved his wife and daughter from the hands of the people of the 100 Flowers Holy Land. Therefore, Li Xiandao felt no burden in using his corpse now. That's how black-hearted capitalists are. Li Xiandao is a capitalist. This contract required very little investment, but yielded huge profits. Wu Tianyu's corpse was given to the Flame King in exchange for 10,000 of his children, and then a vague promise was made for 100 years later. If the King of Flames is still alive 100 years from now, he might even be able to ascend to the celestial realm. If that's the case, then Li Xiandao has really given far too little. Even if he couldn't ascend to the immortal realm, Li Xiandao would definitely have expanded the Heaven and Earth Bank even further by then, and would have given it a helping hand. Everything is so simple. Earn huge profits with minimal cost. Li Xiandao's path to becoming a capitalist has only just begun. Li Xiandao lifted Wu Tianyu's body and began to use his sword energy to continuously regulate the energy within his body. The original Wu Tianyu is dead. His body is still stiff, his blood is congealed, and his meridians are blocked. Li Xiandao needs to improve these conditions. Sword energy crisscrossed his body, thoroughly cleaning up Wu Tianyu's corpse before infusing it with a sword talisman, penetrating deep within and controlling every part of it. Your primordial spirit can enter, while your body remains hidden in the Naiwan Palace. Your primordial spirit can then enter the sea of consciousness and control everything within it, Li Xiandao said calmly. Following Li Xiandao's instructions, the King of Flames entered Wu Tianyu's body. A short while later, Wu Tianyu's body, which had long been dead, opened its eyes. At first, I felt uncomfortable and stiff, and even fell while walking. As he gradually improved and gained control of everything, within a minute, the King of Flames had completely taken control of Wu Tianyu's corpse. Now no one will know what my true form is. I will study hard in the human world, improve myself, and find my goal for evolution, the Flame King said excitedly. I'm warning you in advance, this body is not allowed to suffer any damage, missing limbs, or serious injuries. If any of these occur, it's your problem, I'll make trouble for you, and I won't honor the terms of the contract, Li Xiandao said coldly. This is a case of starting as a petty person and then becoming a gentleman. 100 years later, Li Xiandao still wondered if he could help Wu Tianyu be resurrected if he were stronger. Therefore, the body must be kept intact and free from damage. The King of Flames said solemnly, I understand. Don't worry, I will take good care of this corpse. Li Xiandao nodded in satisfaction, looking at the 10,000 little Flame Kings, feeling a great sense of accomplishment. A nurturing/developmental story. Train 10,000 Flame Kings to form a burning legion, invincible in all directions. Just thinking about it is very exciting. Just as Li Xiandao was getting excited, Shao Qi walked over, looking rather unpleasant. What's wrong? Li Xiandao asked.